Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I've had a few people asking me which of the two factions of Triple C who are in parliament should they support. In the last few days, there's been a squaring up of the two factions. The first one led by Sengezo, Tshabangu, and the other one by Jameson, Timba. There's a lot of talk that the MPs, Triple C MPs, will be expected to take sides on the issue of amending the constitution to postpone the 2028 elections and possibly to create a new GNU. I think many people would say that amending the constitution to postpone the 2028 elections is out of the question. And therefore, then any of the two factions would take that side. The people will consider them as representing the will of the will of the people of Zimbabwe. In this case here, what people must understand is that in the circumstance, in the present political circumstance, it probably doesn't make any difference. Because the chaos that has resulted with this factional fighting in Triple C has already given ZANU-PF probably the 2/3 majority that they require. Because it should be remembered that when Tshabangu recalled some of the Triple C MPs, there to be new elections. And Triple C went on to lose some of those elections, and so reducing their numbers in parliament. There were no fresh elections where they were nominated or proportional representation. So in this particular case, what matters really is the question that one should ask is, has the Triple C done the people of Zimbabwe any favors by participating in the 2023 elections? The answer to that has to be no. They didn't do the people of Zimbabwe any favors. We cannot run away from the fact that the election process was flawed. And Jameson and company knew that the process is flawed. They've known this all along. We've known that without implementing democratic reforms, ZANU-PF will rig the elections. MDC Triple C leaders have known this themselves. When they failed to implement even one token reform during the 2008 to 2013 GNU, which they did not because Mugabe bribed them. Some people don't want to accept it, but that is a historic fact. And when they realized that they'd failed to implement any meaningful reforms, the MDC leaders made a decision that they will participate in flawed elections and try to convince their followers that they can win rigged elections. This is where we are. This is why the country is in this mess. Ever since the 2013 elections, the MDC CCC have participated in flawed elections, knowing the process is flawed, knowing that by participating they will only give ZANU-PF legitimacy. But they've gone on to participate out of greed. So if Chamisa and company participated in the 2023 elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that ZANU-PF was rigging, and by participating, you're giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. And they did, and hence where we are where we are. We end up with a government in which ZANU-PF is the governing party. We cannot pretend that is what we wanted. That is the argument. And the failure of the people of Zimbabwe to accept that reality is at the heart of our present political crisis. The people of Zimbabwe have been conned into believing that having failed to implement even one token reform during the GNU, MDC CCC can still win elections, rigged elections. In 2018, Jameson told the people that MDC Alliance had stringent measures to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. That was, of course, a lie, as we all know. Indeed, hardly a day after the election, he was the one who was complaining that ZANU-PF had rigged the elections. Come 2023, he did the same thing. He convinced his followers that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. And it turns out that it was not true. And we know it was not true. He was doing all this because, as David Coulthard admitted in the quotation that is going at the bottom of your page, we were participating out of greed. Here is Margaret Dongo speaking on that very subject, the subject of rigged elections and MDC CCC guys participating in those flawed electoral processes.
There's now corruption everywhere. Worse off with the leadership. Because they have a look. You asked me a very good question. You were in the Central Committee. You were a member of Parliament. You were this and that. Why are you feeling the pinch? It's because, I didn't believe in corruption. I'm not a selfish person. I'm a selfless person, and I'm like a social worker. Politics is not a business.
They don't believe how toxic this is. If you're still using a plastic or wooden cutting board, you need to hear this. I never post stuff like this.
Our MPs and other people.
Do you think they look at it as a business?
Yes, they look at it as a business, because they look at it as a business seriously. Because the moment they go, business and employment creation, because if they go to parliament, you are employed. You get a car, you get a stable salary, and you are paid until your term is over. Already you are employed. If you are out, you're out of employment.
If you serve 2 terms, you get a pension?
You get a pension. Then already, this is why people kill in politics. They kill to be in parliament. This is why we have violence in this country, because there is no employment. The only employment which is there is in politics. There is no other outside employment. So for them, a very good example is, look at what happened to CCC, the Triple C party. Have a look. When they lost, when they said they were rigged, what I expected from them, I expected all parliamentarians to say, we are not going to go to participate in a rigged system, and we are not going to sit in a rigged parliament, because the elections have been rigged. So all of us were not going to parliament. Imagine what could have happened. We could have gone into new elections. There's no way ZANU-PF was going to rule alone.
You think so?
Yes.
Do they care?
Caring or not caring, the public would have forced them, because the majority of the people would want representation in parliament.
But they went anyway?
But they went. They realized that, you heard them complain, I used my own money to be in parliament. But what about me who have voted for you? I used my own money. So the idea is to recover. Is it a business where you want to recover your losses? Is it a business? Politics, is it a business where everyone else, when you get in parliament, you want to recover your losses? A good example is now, parliamentarians have been elected. I don't know when we last saw our member of parliament.
My apologies. It is important that the people themselves should understand what is it they want. As much as the parliamentarians, the politician, would put his name forward or her name forward and want to be elected and see it as an opportunity for them to enjoy the benefits of the gravy train, of being on the gravy train, the people themselves have got to ask, what is it we want our parliamentarians to do? We are not electing them so that they can give legitimacy to a flawed process, to a regime that no longer represents the will of the people, that we can no longer hold to account. I said this on a number of occasions, that the people of Zimbabwe have got to accept that they elected the opposition in Zimbabwe for one primary purpose: to implement the democratic reforms to dismantle the ZANU-PF dictatorship. That was the number one purpose the people of Zimbabwe elected ZANU-PF, MDC. So if the MDC guys are failing to deliver on the reforms, then it is imperative that the people should be saying, okay, we need better representatives. You cannot be electing somebody so that when they are in parliament, they forget what you elected them for, you fail to hold them to account, and worst of all, they are there to, if anything, to perpetuate the very thing that you're trying to end. You elected them to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship, and instead of them doing that, they are now the ones who are perpetuating it. This is at the heart of our problem. So the two factions of CCC should have not participated in the 2023 elections. And even when SADC and the AU condemned those elections as flawed and illegal, the CCC, all those CCC members who had won the seats, including the likes of David Coltart, Fazai Mahere, Ostalos Sisiva, Jameson, Timba, and so forth, they all took up their gravy train seats. These are the ones that Margaret Dong was referring to when she was saying that when you ask them, why are you taking up your seats even when you know the process is flawed? And they argue that, oh no, I spend my own money in the election. So you don't care that the process is flawed. All you wanted is a gravy train seat. And yet, the principle, the primary reason the opposition, the people of Zimbabwe have risked everything to elect the opposition is to make sure that we have got a political system that is able to allow the ordinary Zimbabweans to have a meaningful say in the governance of the country. That elections should be free, fair, and credible. MDC CCC have been voted into office these last 25 years for the primary purpose of implementing the democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. That cannot be denied. That cannot be overemphasized. And yet, 25 years down the line, ZANU-PF is still able to blatantly rig elections. The participation of CCC in parliament right now is only giving the regime legitimacy. That is what is the problem. How long are we going to continue with this cycle where we give ZANU-PF legitimacy, rigs the elections, and we participate knowing that they will rig the elections, and we are giving them legitimacy. What is wrong with us accepting, particularly now after 45 years of rigged elections, and put up our hands and say, okay, enough is enough. We have had enough of these flawed elections, which the opposition keeps telling us that we are going to win. Let's follow the rules. Let's have free, fair, and credible elections like other countries. That is where we are. After 45 years of rigged elections, the people of Zimbabwe should draw the line in the sand and say, from now on, we are not going to participate in an electoral process which we know is flawed, which we know is illegal, in the hope that the opposition will win. Because if we do that, that is the only way we're going to make sure that the elections are free, fair, and credible. As long as ZANU-PF knows that the opposition will participate, and I can rest assure you, these MPs, CCC MPs of both factions who are in parliament right now will participate in these flawed elections. As much as some of them will hesitate amending the constitution to allow them to stay until 2030, most of them will be tempted to go along with that, under the pretext that we need some kind of political stability to take the country forward. We have an illegitimate government already. This ZANU-PF administration is not in office because they won the support of the majority of ordinary Zimbabweans. That is not true. They did not. They are in government because they were able to rig the elections. That is where our problem is. We cannot deny the reality on the ground. How can we have trust in a regime that we did not elect, that we cannot hold to account? We have got to deal with the problem of rigged elections. And more specifically, of participating in rigged elections to give the regime legitimacy. Because that is at the heart of our problem. We have failed to deal with this problem because we keep participating and giving it legitimacy. We must stop that. And the only sure way of doing it is putting our foot down and saying, from now on, we are not going to participate in a flawed electoral process. ZANU-PF would have not got legitimacy if the people of Zimbabwe had not participated in 2023 elections in their millions as people did. SADC and the AU condemned those electoral processes as flawed. But because the people of Zimbabwe had participated, neither SADC nor the AU could really say, no, we are going to put aside the result. even if the people of Zimbabwe had participated. That argument cannot be denied. It is shocking that 45 years after independence, we are still talking about free, fair, and credible elections. We are still participating in flawed elections in the hope that the opposition would win. Albert Einstein said, insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. 45 years of participating in flawed elections, hoping that the opposition would win, is insanity. Thank you very much. Have a good day.